At a recent conference, Professor Richard Griffiths revisited the unofficial map of China's Maritime Silk Road, showing the ports in which China had an interest. After visiting some of them, he concludes that the Maritime Silk Road is not about ports at all, but about the ships that load and offload their cargoes.
Thank you very much. It's a truism to say that there is no official map of the Belt and Road Initiative. And yet, of course, all of you have seen them. Then if you turn to the sea, you'll see several dots, usually half a dozen ports in China, and then going round through Asia and ending up in the Mediterranean. And linking those dots together is a nice blue line, almost like a treasure map, suggesting that in some way that this is perhaps a map of the Maritime Silk Road. But of course, this is not the Maritime Silk Road. Indeed, it'd be very curious if that line and those ports were the only things that were involved in international maritime trade. But it's not the Maritime Silk Road either, because the ports are either not particularly important or they're not doing what China supposes them to be doing. So let's have a look at some of them in order. If we go round from China to Europe, you'll find early on, China has an interest in Singapore. Well, of course it has an interest in Singapore. It's one of the most important ports in the world. Everybody has a bit of interest in Singapore. So it's not unusual that China's shipping firms have a piece of the action there. Then we swing round through the Straits of Malacca that appears in all of the geopolitical literature, and we arrive at Kiapu in Myanmar. Now, this is a port in Myanmar that's supposed to give China a guarantee of getting energy to South China and getting goods from South China out into the trading network, avoiding the Straits of Malacca and avoiding the potential of any blockade. But if you go and look at the port, have a look what it's doing. The gas pipeline is working because it's actually exploiting the gas field. But the pipeline for oil is only working at 50%. And the railroad that's supposed to be bringing the industrial goods down from Yuan into the Gulf of Bengal hasn't even started. Go further down to Sri Lanka and you'll come across Hambantota, which features in all of the literature of the debt diplomacy of China. China has got this port by forgiving a debt of $1 billion. And what does it do? Almost nothing. Scarcely a ship visits it. If it is, it's usually a ship that's depositing cars, and what is Hambantota, in fact, a large car park. Why should it be any bigger when it's got a little bit further up the road, Colombo, the major port of Sri Lanka, is operating there? They're saying that they're going to install some bunker fuel facilities so that ships might stop to refuel. I can't see that actually happening, since most big ships refuel when they're loading and offloading. So, a great white elephant at the moment. Then we get to Gwadra in Pakistan, the jewel of the crown, the pearl of the China-Pakistan economic corridor. It's half empty. It scarcely gets a ship visiting it. The oil pipelines and gas pipelines that's supposed to be built haven't been started. The road that's supposed to go north to connect it to Kashgar in China hasn't even been started. There's a road going to the east that links it up with the ports in that part of the country. Then you'll find the road will actually do a detour across to Mombasa in Kenya. You say, oh, this is odd, because China has no interest in the port of Mombasa. But that's only on the map because it actually built the railway from Mombasa to Nairobi. But it's not a port interest, it's a sort of tail end of a railroad interest. Then it swings round, you get to Piraeus in Greece. Fabulous success story. Disaster of a port, badly managed, very small, up to its eyeballs in debt, totally transformed by China. It is the biggest port in the Mediterranean. But it's not hard. There's a lot of small ports in the Mediterranean. It's not difficult to become the biggest. But compliments, the port is developing. The big problem is developing the land link to get the goods from the port to anywhere interesting in Europe. That has still got to start. And then the map will usually finish off in Venice. I don't know why, because China does have interests in Benelux. It has the container port of Zeebrugge, and it has a large interest in the port of Rotterdam. And in fact, those two interests, the interest in those ports, are far bigger than Piraeus or any of the other individual ports I've named so far. So, what you're looking at that map is not the Maritime Silk Road. I've got bigger news. The Maritime Silk Road isn't even about ports, even if that's what India and the United States seems to think. They seem to think that every port where China has an interest is a potential naval base or some submarine base. They even draw maps sometimes with little warships on them. And besides, China hasn't got many ports. Its interest in ports outside China is their interest in 25 ports in the world. Well, okay, 25, let's bunker up, let's get scared. But there are 7,500 ports in the world outside China. 3,700 of those are major ports. About 2,000 of them are on the Maritime Silk Road, from Europe right round to Asia. China has interest in 17 or 18 of those ports. It's 1%. Come on, it's not about ports. You don't need to own a port to conduct trade. It's the ships that drive the Maritime Silk Road. It's the ships that move 70 to 80% of world trade, goes by sea. The ports are the derived demand from that activity. If China doesn't do it, somebody else will, and somebody else has been. So, ships and trade is what the Maritime Silk Road is all about. And trade has increased. Now, 70 to 80% of total international trade is carried by sea. And about 45% of that seaborne trade is on the Maritime Silk Road between Asia and Europe. Well, in the last decade, 2008 to 2018, the value of seaborne trade increased by 35%. But the capacity of the fleet carrying that trade increased by 70%. So you basically need bigger ports. But not only that, the size of ships has also increased. So the size of new builds in the last decade has increased by 35%. And that's been even higher. Bunkers, bulk traders that carry coal and iron have increased on average by 40%. Container ships have increased in size by almost 90%. That means bigger ships, means fewer port visits, means more stuff unloaded at each visit, and so you need better and bigger ports. So basically everyone in the world is building ports.